internet slow. Maybe we'll get it fixed one day. I just spoke to Councilor Rudd. He's running behind. He has item 9A. I don't know if any councilors have any concerns or questions. Otherwise, he called that item ready.
Councilor Rich Pachowski, Director of Syracuse United Neighbors. I'm about to present to the Assessment Office my third completed tax exemption on flood insurance. So the question I have, those qualified people that submit these, will they all receive some form of relief? That's my question.
I believe that's the plan, but
It's not
the
a public
assessment
hearing.
commissioner should.
So we're going to move on. Councilor, item number 10. Will you know by Monday?
Yeah,
Mr.
we're
Mitchell?
ready. We have
All right.
them, yeah.
Appreciate it. Councilor Thompson.
Yes, Councilor. I have items number.
Councilor, you want the assessment commissioner
Yes,
to
I think
answer
you
that
probably
question?
answered it, yeah.
It's up to you.
We'll get back to that. Go ahead. This is not as
Okay, I have items 11 through 16. Items 11 and 12 are receptions of donations. 12 or 13 is training and consulting. 14 is for the next year for psychological examinations, testing for the police recruits. They're in the process of putting together another class. 15 is a burn memorial grant split with the Sheriff's Department. And 16 is the Citizens Review Board money that they have for investigative services, and that they have selected a firm to do that. Any questions?
I do on 16. Is there someone that can speak? Yeah. So I guess specifically with the funds that, you know, we'd be allocating to you, ideally what would be done? How many investigations do you think? Like, are there specific ones that you want to use this for that you've already got it earmarked for, or is this just as they come?
It depends on the nature of the case. Okay. I had one in particular. That was one that is a older case that is pretty detailed, that I felt it was necessary to have a private investigator to do that particular case due to the nature of the case. So it basically depends on the nature of it. As you know, I have attended training sessions with regard to internal affairs investigations that we've allocated city funds for, but in terms of that, I'm the sole investigator in the office, so it is a need that we have in order to expedite the processing of cases and given the nature of the case.
To follow up on what Councilor Carney was saying, so do you have particulars in the pipeline now that we're really focused on?
Yes.
Just the one?
No, we have others, and again, 2017 we had 118 cases to come through the office. In 2018 we had 86 cases, I believe, to come through the office. So given the nature of the time frame that I've been here and the backlog that needed to be carried out, we do have some cases that would be relevant so that we can continue to push through and be as current as possible and to expedite the processing of all the cases.
Well, and so I think, I mean, obviously you got to be supportive of the CRB. The question comes down to, do you find this sufficient, or do you expect this will not last?
In terms of, I find that hiring a private investigator will be sufficient.
I mean, the dollars. I mean, do you think
the dollar amount is
the dollar amount? I believe, based upon what was previously allocated, we would be looking for more funds in the future. But as of right now, we based it on the amount that was allocated in that budget line item. So at some point in time, yes, we do feel that it would be necessary to allocate more funds.
Okay. And you know, budget time's coming up, so I guess I was just wondering if you had any data or insight into how many of these you think may be going forward, the dollar amounts you may be seeking in a on a budgetary basis?
Well, given the fact that the dollar amounts that have been provided are $50 to $75 an hour, I only anticipate them having maybe, on per a case basis, maybe $100 a case, meaning 2 hours, or maybe, on the rate that it's $75 an hour, somewhere around, $150 to $200. So it kind of just depends. So given the fact that we haven't done this before, we don't know how long it's really going to take, but that's kind of an estimate as to what it would be. So given that fact, I think once we are looking at the cases that we are sending to them, we can appropriate the right number of funds. But in terms of $4,202 as an amount to use on that number of cases, it is at a minimum. We do have money available for a medical examiner, which we're not utilizing at the moment. So we have other funds in that same line item, but this is specifically what we're trying to use at this point for a private investigator.
Okay, great. That's helpful. I think it's helpful to have an idea of you're expecting just a few hours on a lot of these cases. Most of them aren't going to be 10, 20 hours worth of.
I don't anticipate that.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Yep, okay, my items are ready.
Councilor Green.
Thank you, Councilor Bay. Item 17 is the revision of the film permitting process, which we had a committee meeting on last week. I don't know if there's any further questions from councilors on that item. Okay. Items 18 and 19. We do have some questions on this one, so just walk us through basically how these items relate to what we've already approved.
Councilors, Lonnie Bornstein, Energy Manager of the city. This is a continuation of a 6-year project. We started last year with the purchase of the poles. We are waiting to move forward with the LED project before we do some of the field work for installing the poles, because we are also doing the underpasses at the same time with city forces. By doing this, we're saving significant money because it's cheaper than prevailing wage, and we're getting the stuff off state contract prices. So this is the next year's purchase of the poles, and we'll be putting them in because we should be moving forward with the LED project as well, and there'll be parallel path projects.
Which regions is this referring to?
Pardon again?
Where, so...
You want to know where they're located?
Yeah, where are these lights located?
Okay, off the top of my head, it's Sedgwick, Bradford, Brookford, Hillsborough, Strathmore. This is for all the poles that are 60 plus years.
Yeah.
And it's one style, and they're getting a special nomenclature because we are charged differently from National Grid currently because they're that old and in that tough a shape.
Yeah.
So they are throughout the whole city. They're spread out. There's 550 of them.
So this
total.
refers to the whole special lighting district? That
No, this is just pricing exception poles. The special lighting district covers about 2,400 poles. This is only for 550, and these are the ones that are the older ones that are in these more remote areas.
And we're replacing
The pole.
the pole itself.
And foundation where need be.
Yeah. Now, what type of lighting are we? Do we have like an example?
Yes. The street lighting LED project is going to put a new light on every pole, including these new poles. We're going to remove the pole, put in the new pole, and whatever fixture is there, if it's done pre or post project, that light will go back on. But when we're all said and done, every light in the city will have a new LED.
No, I guess my question is currently we have like a very ornate pole.
Oh, the replacement looks just like that one.
Okay.
These are decorative poles.
Yes, these are decorative poles, and the fixture selected for these specific locations is an identical match, but
Okay.
it's an LED.
All right. That was my question, because I think Councilor Driscoll and I would be getting a lot of phone calls from the neighbors.
Indeed.
But thank
Is that
you.
it?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'll make sense.
One other, Councilor. Commissioner Robinson. So we were just contacted about a couple different streetlights that are planned to be removed. I don't expect you to know all the details because it's not on the agenda, but if you just brief context of what's going on with that.
There was a study done that warranted that we were going to do an upgrade on the streetlights, and they didn't. And the study warranted that it didn't need to go full blown on a replacement. So we felt like always stop was better. I can gather more information, and then I can basically better explain that to you guys, but that's what we deem.
Yeah, I think we're not trying to put you on the spot, so why don't we'll come back at a future time, and that way we can talk about that.
Definitely.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you, Councilor.
All right, Councilor Carney.
Thank you. I have items 20, 21, 22, 23. If you want to just walk us through.
Yep. Good afternoon, Julie LaFave, Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. Item number 20 is a donation that we have received for a number of years from WCNY to sponsor one free open skating night. It's 300 cash and then 700 that they offer us as advertising year-round for programs that we decide that we want to market.
Okay.
Number 21 is to amend an ordinance for Veterinary Medical Center of CNY. Two changes to change the amount and also to amend it so that it's not billed to two different departments but all Parks and Rec.
Could you go into that a little bit more? So currently, the animal, the dog and stuff, that's a separate department.
This is related to dog control. So this specific vendor is for emergency cases. So dogs that come in with some kind of life-threatening injury that needs to be treated that can't just go to the shelter. Recent changes in the conditions of the dogs and just how it's been going the last year, we maxed out at the 7,400 every year, and VMC was kind enough to continue to offer services, but based on what we need them for, the amount had to be updated or amended. Okay. And any other questions on that one?
Yeah, I was also kind of concerned about the consolidation of it. So what would be involved? So now it would all just be under parks?
Yeah, so
I can give you history. They changed this in recent years to have the police do part of it. It used to always be under parks in the past, so they're basically going back to the way it used to be.
Bills were getting just lost, and VMC didn't necessarily know who to bill, so we're just consolidating it so that all bills can be paid and everything can be done quickly. And
so it won't change much about actual functionality about services?
No, just the bill, and dog control uses much more of it than the police department did.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Yep. Item number 22 is requesting agreement or requesting authorization to apply for a grant for ash trees. And
I was curious on that one. Counselor, do you want to?
I was just going to ask if we've already applied.
No,
we have not.
We have not applied.
So what would it look like? How do we deal with the invasive species here?
So these would be 135 trees that the city arborist would determine that would need to be treated for this. And this is not in this current fiscal year, so the match, because this is taking place in a future budget year, we're budgeting for it right now, the match, $5,000. So no work has been done on this. Right now we just need to decide if we're going to apply. It was something that was just released recently.
Right, so this would be treating ash trees?
Yes.
That have an invasive bug kind of?
Emerald ash borer.
Okay. And what is this is just
you have pretty much two
treatment look like?
You have pretty much two options when you have ash trees and emerald ash borer. You either have to get rid of the tree completely because there's no way you can do it, or you have to actually inoculate the tree and put some kind of pesticide, for lack of a better word, inside the tree to save it.
So this money would go towards like a kind of medicine or kind of some kind of treatment to
yes
treat the trees.
Yes. You actually stick a giant, it's just like getting a vaccination shot yourself, but you're doing it to a tree.
Nice.
To piggyback off that, this has been going on a while. Is there an end date or a long-term?
We're in a quarantine zone, and ash borer just continues to spread across the United States, so I don't think that this is anything that's ever going to end. So I think at one point we have to decide whether we're just going to remove all ash trees, let them die on their own, or if we have some that, for purposes, based on the placement or the age of the tree, whether we don't want to remove them and we need to keep them.
I look at this maybe do we have any idea how many city-owned ash trees we actually have?
I do not, but I would assume that they do in their database. They have every city tree in their database. Would you like me to email that to you?
Yeah, if it's.
I can.
I'd be curious.
Yeah.
How many we actually.
It should be easy for them to access that.
That's perfect. Thank
Okay.
you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on that one?
Do we still cut them down Like
This one specifically is for treating them.
Right. But we've cut a lot down also, right?
I don't know what our past practice has been. I just know that municipality-wise and community-wise, it's usually the cheaper in the long
Treating them
run.
sounds good.
Okay. Okay.
Them both.
Any other questions on that one? I love how interested you guys are in trees every week, by the way. And item number 23 is to authorize payment for a vendor for an event that is happening in May. Big Rig Day. Okay, thanks.
I'm going to call all my items ready.
Appreciate it. Councilor Boyle?
Thank you. I have item number 24, an agreement with Onondaga Earth Corps. I'm going to call it ready unless anybody has any questions.
Councilor Allen?
Thank you. I have items 25 through 46. 25 will be held for a public hearing on February 25th. Next, item 26 is a special permit.
Good afternoon, councilors. Heather Lamondola, zoning administrator. So this was on your agenda last time. It's in a plaza with the dollar store on East Genesee Street.
Are you ready for this one?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I'm fine.
All right. Yeah, he had a few questions last time, so we'll call it ready.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Item 27. This is an agreement with New York State Department of Health to accept a grant. And this is Stephanie here?
Stephanie.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Councilor. Stephanie Pasquale, Commissioner for Neighborhood and Business Development. Are there questions?
Does everybody know about this item, or do you guys have any questions?
I guess my question would just be, how many properties do we believe will be addressed or dealt with?
So these funds can be used very flexibly, so we hope to use part of the funds to train code enforcement staff and minority and women business enterprises on becoming EPA certified, in addition to addressing some properties and doing some environmental impact work.
This is earmarked by Senator DeFrancisco from the Health Department.
That was going to be my question, was do we know how many properties we're getting done? And I guess if you just said there's flexibility, are we using most of it for training?
Approximately a third would be for training of both our staff and for construction companies to get their EPA certification in preparation for the administration of our lead grant. There's not as many contractors trained or certified as we would like to broaden that pool. Additionally, there's some environmental impact study work we need to do to understand how to deploy these resources in the best way possible, and that's what those funds were targeted for. This is to sort of complement the lead grant we just received. Any remaining funds, though, will be used in properties.
How many of our code enforcement officers do we hope to get trained with this?
All of the ones that are in the field for residential inspection, so I believe it's 21.
All right, thank you. And item 28.
Good afternoon, Yolanda Johnson, Construction Development Coordinator. Property owner at 309 South Crouse Ave is requesting permission for an existing set of stairs that will encroach 4 feet into the right-of-way on South Crouse.
And this is the barber shop, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions?
Nope.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And items 29 through 46 will be held. And I'm all done. We don't need that.
Before we adjourn, Commissioner Clip, you got a question?
I was just gonna ask about holding the properties. Are we gonna be?
Yeah, I'm holding them until I hear back from the land bank. I have a meeting with her on Monday, but since she didn't follow up with the report that I asked for 2 months ago, I'm just holding them.
Only 2 months? You gotta give them a couple.
Stephanie, do you have any input on that, or?
I've already spoken with Stephanie, and Stephanie actually submitted me her report already from her office, so now I'm waiting on Caitlin's from the land bank, and like I said, I'll meet with her on Monday and then we can follow up with a committee meeting and then discuss it, how we'll move forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Have you gotten any information?
No.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before we adjourn, Commissioner Clifford, there was a question asked about houses that are in or properties within the flood area.
Yes.
And those that qualify for exemption that fill out the application. I believe the question was, will all of those who qualify for the exemption receive the exemption?
If they qualify, yes. If they, for example, don't have flood insurance, they won't qualify. Or if they don't give us the information that shows that they have flood insurance in this year, they won't qualify.
What's the threshold for qualification? I think there's like an income.
That's just for properties outside the strategic area.
Okay.
Most of the properties that are in the flood zone are in that strategic area.
Okay.
And if there's, I figure if there's any further questions, you can ask the expert on it there, Mr. Pszczowski.
Well, there are some people that already have a senior exemption, and in one case I submitted last week, had a vet's exemption. And so I was told that they probably are not going to get, any further reduction as a result of submitting this application.
Yeah, if they're not paying any city taxes now, they won't be getting an additional exemption.
Right.
Well, I think the public should be aware of that.
Okay.
Some people expect
Like to make it clear to the
get
public, if you're
something.
not paying any city taxes, we can't reduce it any further.
0-0.
But the public is not aware of all that information.
We appreciate it. Thank you, Commissioner. Sure. With that, I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?